What's happening, everybody? I appreciate you checking in. All right, it's been a minute since I've dropped a video, man. I've been enjoying the lives that I've been doing. Honestly, the last month, maybe month and a half, it's been a minute since I dropped a video, but I want to jump on here and talk about this whole Chip Kelly news. Obviously, Pete Carroll decided to move on from Chip Kelly after our 10-24 loss against the Cleveland Browns. And the question is was it warranted? Is this a move that is going to show any improvement with this offense moving forward? Obviously, there's been a lot of struggles with the offense. There's a lot of areas within this offense that need to improve. And the question is, with this firing, what can we expect this offense moving forward? Because I'll tell you right now, a lot of people on social media are just celebrating the fact that Chip Kelly was fired. And ultimately, the struggles that we saw with the offense does lie on the offensive coordinator. But let's be honest, I think there were a lot of moves that happened well before training camp that have kind of led up to the issues and just the struggles that we've seen with this offense, starting with the offensive line, how it was handled and how this offensive line was constructed. But then obviously we have a bunch of injuries. And then looking at the receiver core as well as just the quarterback play, the running back play, and everything in between. And so in this video, I'm going to kind of give you my take as to what I expect with this offense moving forward. Now that Chip Kelly isn't the play caller, no longer the offensive coordinator, obviously we now know GREG OLSEN has been elevated to the offensive coordinator position, and I'll probably touch on that in another video. If not, I'll definitely hit you guys with my opinion on that when I go live on Wednesday in the Raider War Room. But in the comment section down below, let me know what your thoughts are of this Chip Kelly firing. Are you excited about it? Do you think it was the right move? And what do you expect moving forward from this offense now that he's no longer the play caller of this offense? So before I get into it, if you can, do me a favor, hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. But also hit that sub button. I'm doing my next giveaway at 5,500 subscribers. So if you want to be included in that, hit that sub button. Just a way of me showing my appreciation to all my subscribers. And shout out to all my members of the channel. Appreciate all you guys that did drop. It's the ability to support the channel if you'd like to with memberships. And so if you want to get included in that, I would definitely appreciate that as well. All right, so let's talk about this Chip Kelly movement, whether or not. Are we going to see any improvement with this offense moving forward? And here's my thing. If you want to talk about the best example of a scapegoat, this is definitely it. Because obviously a couple weeks ago, we had Tom McMahon, which is our special teams coordinator. He got relieved of his duties, all right? Pete Carroll, he made the move. He moved on from Tom McMahon because of just the special teams issues that we had. And we thought, without question, that is a big scapegoat move as well. Yes, we had issues with the special teams, but something had to happen. Our record was horrible. We were losing games, really being embarrassed in a lot of games. And Pete Carroll decided to make that move, and so he moved on with Tom McMahon. And just a couple weeks later, now we find ourselves without an offensive coordinator. Pete Carroll decided to move on from Chip Kelly. And the question is how much was it Chip Kelly's fault with the issues that we're seeing with the offense? Now, like I said earlier in the video, when your offense isn't successful and your offense isn't improving week after week, it does fall on the shoulders of the offensive coordinator to show improvement week after week. But let's be honest, you also have to take into consideration what the offensive coordinator has to work with. And obviously injuries happen all the time. And our offensive line, just like last year, has seen nothing but injuries this entire season. Colton Miller's out, JPJ's out. And I'm a firm believer that you build in the trenches. And if you don't have a good offensive line, good luck to any offensive coordinator to just really continuously finding success in the National Football League. But here's my issue with just kind of how this offense has been put together. And this stems well before training camp, back into free agency and even into the draft. And the way that Spytek and Pete Carroll have been able to kind of build this offense, I think has a lot to do with the lack of success that we've seen on the offensive side of the ball. You take into consideration just a few examples of what went down in the offseason that has really played a major role in the struggles that we've seen with this offense up to this date. You can start off in free agency where we brought in Ales Kappa, statistically the worst starting guard in the National Football League. We all knew that he was not going to be good. And we also knew that we needed help at the guard position. And your answer was Ales Kappa. We all know that was bad. And then you look at when we go into training camp and all of a sudden we're switching around Ales Kappa as well as Jackson Powers-Johnson and taking Jordan Meredith and moving him to the center position. And now 9-10 weeks into the season, you have Pete Carroll addressing the media saying that Jordan Meredith did a hell of a job last year at the guard position. But then all of a sudden you thought it was a smart decision to move him to center. And then you take a look at how we handled the draft. And as much as You can say Genty was a good pick or not. What we didn't do is either we didn't prioritize the offensive line position, especially the guard position, in the draft properly, or we just didn't pick the right players because there's no sighting of our third round draft picks, Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant, anywhere to be seen. And we're in week 12 now of the season. And so you didn't address the offensive line properly in free agency as well as the draft. And then after you got a good look at your offensive lineman, you go out and get Stone Forsythe, potentially a backup that will get playing time. And as a reminder, we saw so many injuries to our offensive line last year, and we saw just kind of how that hindered the offense to continue to move forward. And you thought Stone Forsythe was going to be a good option. And once Colton Miller went down, now Stone Forsythe actually goes in the game and looks as bad as we all expected him to look. And Alex Kappa is playing as bad as we all expected him to play. And we still have absolutely no sighting of Caleb Rogers and Charles Grant. And when you draft guys in the third round, you hope that at some point in the season, they're going to come in and potentially contribute. You have to build through the draft. You have to develop through the draft. And any players that are picked in the first, second, and third round, you hope that they have either an immediate impact or you see them at some point in the season to help with the success of the team or the continued improvement moving forward. But again, no sighting of our offensive lineman that we chose in the third round. And to me, that's an issue of one or two things, or could be both. One, you're not developing them properly, so we have horrible coaching that's not developing our third round draft picks, or you're trying to coach these kids up and they're just not getting it. And John Spytek, you wasted 2 third-round draft picks on players that are just not developing properly. And I can't tell you which one it is. I'm not there in practice. And so at the end of the day, our offensive line is absolutely horrible. And you have 2 third-round draft picks sitting on the sideline. The majority of the season have been a healthy scratch with 0 sightings of them going into the game and helping out this team in any way. So that just shows and proves that this offensive line has been completely mismanaged dating back from free agency. And I don't know what offensive coordinator can work with that given the situation. And now that's the offensive line situation. Now let's take a look at the receiver situation. I started saying this only a couple weeks into the 2025 season, was that if Jakobi Meyers was traded away at the trade deadline, we could arguably have the worst receiver core in the National Football League. Just take a look at what our receivers are. Jack Besh, non-existent, a second-round overall pick. Deontay Thornton is not developing well, basically non-existent since the beginning of the season. You got Trey Tucker, that is not a number 1 or even a number 2 receiver, and at 5'11", it's not the most reliable target. And then you bring in Tyler Lockett, doesn't move the needle at all. Obviously, yes, we have Brock Bowers as our number 1 receiver threat and receiver target. But the problem is when you don't have an actual receiver threat, now defensive coordinators can scheme properly, and probably 80% of the time, they can take their number 1 corner and match them up against Brock Bowers, which Brock Bowers, he's one of the best, if not the best tight end in the National Football League. But where tight ends thrive is where you get the mismatches against linebackers, against safeties, against slot corners, not against number 1 corners. And I'm not saying that Brock Bowers can't beat number 1 corners, but that's not the ideal situation to put Brock Bowers in. That's not the mismatch that you're looking for. But because we let Jakobi Meyers walk, because we haven't established a number 1 receiver, now it's going to make it that much harder for Brock Bowers to be able to get open consistently enough for him to be the threat that we know he can be. And so we've completely mismanaged this receiver room. We've missed in the draft multiple times in the early rounds, Deontay Thornton being a 4th round. You let Jakobi Meyers walk. Now, mind you, I get it. I understand. He wasn't a number 1 receiver, but you let him walk. We actually got good compensation in my mind, a 4th round and a 6th round this upcoming draft. I think that was really good compensation. So I'm not extremely mad at the fact that we moved on from Jakobi Meyers, because he was going to go off and be a free agent at the end of the season anyways. But here's the thing is, what you did is you completely crippled this receiver room. And what offensive coordinator, going back to the offensive line situation, what offensive coordinator can work with this offensive line as well as arguably the worst receiver core in the National Football League? And then obviously we have Genty, and I'm going to touch on Genty for just 1 second because I'm not going to do a deep dive. I mean, look, the potential of your running game isn't based on the running back that's carrying the rock. The potential of your running game is your offensive line. The offensive line will show the potential of your running game. Your running back will show the floor of your running game. And Genty is a good running back. But the offensive line is going to dictate the potential and ceiling of your running game. And everybody that was a Genty fan, you're saying that he's not doing well. Why? Because of the offensive line. And that goes to my point, is that the offensive line is going to dictate the success of the running back. And if your offensive line is trash, your running back is going to struggle. And in turn, this is why, and this leads me to the overall point that I'm trying to make, is that as much as Chip Kelly was part of the problem, we have so many other problems on this offense that even with GREG OLSEN taking over and as much experience that GREG OLSEN has at calling plays in the National Football League, I guarantee you he might find some success this upcoming game. He might score 17 to 21 points just because it's a spark. It's a different offensive coordinator. No, these are still professional athletes. There might be a little bit of excitement in that locker room just because of some change. But look, everything is going to crash back down to earth that following week against the Denver Broncos. Because GREG OLSEN has never really been just this highly touted offensive coordinator or this offensive mind. He's never been that. I wasn't a fan of him when he was with Derek Carr, when we had him with John Gruden and he took over as the interim offensive coordinator. I was never a fan of GREG OLSEN. So even if we had a high-powered offense, I don't have a lot of confidence that GREG OLSEN is going to turn this thing around. But even if he could, even if he had the potential of being this great play caller, with the issues that we have on the offensive line, with the lack of threats that we have in the receivers, and the fact that Genty is going to continue to struggle because our offensive line is as bad as it is. In my opinion, I think Chip Kelly was just another scapegoat, just another excuse as to why we're having such a horrible season. And so whether you're a fan of Chip Kelly or not, look, I had my issues with Chip Kelly. I think he was very predictable. I wasn't a big fan of the offense that he was running, but at the end of the day, we have so many more issues to address. And I don't think any offensive coordinator could have done well with the personnel that we have. And again, these issues stemmed from back in free agency all the way through the draft and how everything has been handled on the player personnel side. And I blame this solely on the coaches. And Brendan Carroll, I blame a lot of this on you because you have literally every single offensive lineman that had success last season has completely regressed. And in my opinion, I've coached this game for 23 years and I played it for 15 years. If you see players that thrived and had success in the year prior, and then a new coach comes in and they regress, every single one of them, that's on coaching. So again, guys, let me know in the comment section down below what's your opinion on the release of Chip Kelly. Are you excited? Do you think it's going to move the needle? Do you think GREG OLSEN is going to come in and revive this offense? Let me know in the comment section down below. So I definitely appreciate it. Again, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on those notifications. My next giveaway is at 5,500 subscribers. So if you want to be included, hit that sub button. So I appreciate you, man. Have a great rest of your day. Tap in. I'm going to go live Wednesday in the Raider War Room. We're going to go over a little bit of game film, but we're definitely going to talk more about these topics. So tap in for that. So I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out of here.